Today we're going to talk about the winner's guide and placing in NAFA's 100 best fleets. My name is Kathy Willick and I'll be your presenter. I'm a CAFM and the current Senior Director of Client Success at Agile Fleet. Also on the call today is Mr. Todd Parks, who is also one of the Client Success Managers with me at Agile Fleet. So happy to have you on the call as well, Todd.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So most of you know I am a former winner of the 100 Best Fleets for several years when I was the fleet director at Iowa State University. And I like to just, help people and share in the knowledge and information that I've learned from others. And so with that, that is why we're having this presentation today. So I am also on the CAFM faculty. I'm a judge for the Green Fleets Awards and a judge for the Green Garage Awards. Also with us today is Michael Brennan from CDMB Consultants, and he is the main judge for the 100 Best Fleets and the project coordinator. So thank you, Michael, for being on with us today. Give you a second to say hi to folks.
Hello, everyone, and glad to have you here on the webinar, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Kathy, for the invite.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. So before we begin, just want to do a couple housekeeping rules. So this webinar is being recorded, and a recording and copy of the slides are available in SharePoint, and your mic will be muted during the webinar. So if you need to ask a question, we do ask that you ask a question, but you will need to do so in the chat box. So speaking of that chat box, in the upper corner of your screen to the left of the leave button, you will see the click to show conversation button. And you can go ahead and click that and then go ahead and type your name and then also the name of your organization if you wouldn't mind, just so we know who we're talking to and who's asking the questions. So thank you for doing that. So again, this is NAFA's 100 Best Fleets. So the program is designed to recognize peak performing fleets. And today we're going to talk about the 2025 100 Best Fleets contest. It's hard to believe it's that time of year again. So the contest initiatives have to do with goal setting, benchmarking, and recognition. So it's important to tell your story. So every fleet has a story, and that's what part of this is here to do, right? So we're here to set those goals, put some benchmarking in place, and get recognized for what your team is doing. And it's not bragging, it's, just telling your story. And it's really important, the benchmarking and the goal setting, to make sure that you are showing numbers and so forth. But we'll get into those details after a bit. So the contest is, as you know, a very extensive contest. And these are the judges for your 2025 100 Best Fleets. With this, I must say kudos to these judges because it takes a lot of time to read through all of these applications and so forth. So we're very pleased to have Steve Salzgiver, Scott Rood, and Danny Brosher judge the contest. They're all very well-known names in the fleet industry, and they have very in-depth knowledge, and it's a pleasure and honor to be able to work with them and know that they're the ones reading your applications to review the contest. Just so everybody knows, it's time to mark your calendars for the NAFA 2025 Institute and Expo. This year's theme is Propel Your Fleet, and it's going to be held in sunny Long Beach, California, for those of us who are in cold territories right now. And it's going to be April 28th through 30th. And we did verify those early bird rates are still available. So please make sure you go to nafa.org to get registered. And that's also where the 100 Best Fleets will be announced, the winners.
Yes, Kathy, on that,
Yeah.
on that INE, just so everybody knows, the early bird rates close January 31st. So if you haven't registered and you want those early bird discounts, you need to get on it pretty quick.
Awesome. Thank you. And just to let you know, that's exactly what I want Michael to do is we're going to just be in tandem. So if there's anything that he wants to add to what I say and so forth, I just invite him to go ahead and add it because he's the real expert of this contest. So I really appreciate his feedback. So thank you for those dates. That's awesome. So some interesting facts too that Mike gave me as we were planning for this session and so forth was he kind of did a quick breakdown for us of the 8 NAFA regions. Of those, how many 100 best fleets are located within each of those regions? So this chart identifies the distribution among those specific regions. So it looks like, 31% is the Southeast, and then the Southwest comes in with 23%. And so it's quite interesting. It's spread pretty consistently over a lot of the regions, but some regions are definitely more active than others. But we want to make sure that all regions are applying and placing and learning from the experience.
Yes, Kathy, on that
Yeah.
regional chart, for those of you here on the webinar, the pie chart shows the percentage, but in the info box on the left, those are the actual numbers of the volume of fleets within each region. So like the Southeast was 36, Southwest 27, and those were the number of agencies. So just in case somebody's looking and they don't see the numbers match, they are a different set of numbers.
That's awesome. Thank you. I was wondering that myself, so good job. So next, this is the best public fleets. So in 2024, the 100 best public fleets. Of that, 48.87% were cities. But as you can tell, there's also counties, utility, educational fleets, and so forth. Port authorities. So there's all kinds of different types of public fleets, but we really encourage all of you to apply. But as you can see, a lot of them in the contest seem to be cities. So if you're one of those others, let's make sure you apply, and we'll increase the number in these different categories. One thing that is super important is just to remember that there is a 2025 application guide review. And in that guide review, there is a guide for both public fleets and commercial fleets, and we're going to be going through both of those today. So the information you provide is so important for the judging process. So please make sure to aim to be brief, yet as specific as possible. So the judges look for content, so statistics, continuous improvement metrics, what was last year, what was this year, what's next, what's your goal next year? Performance goals and different achievement, or, I did X to Y by when, what was the project management oversight, etc. So we're not necessarily looking for volume. So the fields, as you can tell, when you go into the application, are very limited in the amount of information that may be entered. So for example, 50C means 50 characters. So some fields allow 50 characters, some allow 400 characters, and the essay at the end allows 4,000 characters for your organization's response for that particular question. So just make sure you're watching that and be precise and to the point to make sure you get your message across. Start early. So here's that to-do checklist for both the public and commercial fleets. So the contest opened in early December. There may be some changes in the application criteria, and questions from year to year. So ideally, notes should be made throughout your year from the prior year to the application period pertaining to your criteria. So just kind of be monitoring it throughout the year. So when you go to start your application, you have that information readily available from year to year. It's also important to involve all levels of your organization. So getting other members of the team involved allows for, both team and individual accomplishments. And what you may have missed or what previously was unrecognized that you should put in to the application. It also helps you focus on your organization. So the judges are all experienced in the fleet profession and understand the fleet best practices, right? So don't generalize your response or utilize some publicized information from outside your organization. Make sure you're detailed yet concise. So don't assume the judges know everything about your fleet. They are reading a lot of applications, and it's really hard to decipher when you're into, the 30th application. Okay, now what was the one previous and so forth. So just make sure your team's accomplishments are concise. Try and eliminate unnecessary wording. Be honest and factual, right? So feel free to mention any supporting documentation, but do not send it to them unless the judges request it. Preliminary scoring of the top 20 to 30 applications received is extremely close. And I can tell you this from being a judge on the other contests, it is extremely close. So backup information from the accomplishments and service levels identified with your responses may be requested by the judges to review to better score those applications and their rankings that are really close. So if needed, a NAFA staff member will request the information and will forward it to the judges for their review. So they will reach out to you if they need additional information. And the data relevant criteria and questions, some of the criteria and questions are considered to be data relevant, where your organization's actual data is what the judges are looking for. So the specific criteria stated in the data relevant is an example on how to respond. And you do the best you can with the information you have for your fleet in your actual response. So in the public and commercial fleet contests as well for these fields, please use something externally recognizable. So for example, on the name of a government agency, City of Gotham, New York, or Gotham, New York Sheriff, rather than SUAFO or Fleet Operations. Okay, so make sure that you're writing it out so we understand and can easily recognize what fleet it is. So the name of the organization or agencies, and also please list out one contact person. Who is that primary contact person that they need? So they're going to want their last name, their first name, and the mailing address. And it should not be a PO box. It should be a specific mailing address with city, state, road, and everything. Then we need your office phone number, your mobile phone number, your email, and also your job title. So the mailing address is really important because we get certificates and so forth out to you that you can then place in your fleet operation. So that's why it's so important that we have the actual address. And believe it or not, no matter how many times we say that, we still get a lot that don't have that information on it. So the general contest updates for this year in the changes, the criteria response character limit has increased in some of the locations, so that's exciting for people. The public contest changes is collaboration and creativity. Those sections have been merged, and the new criterion is energy management. And then also in the commercial contest, criteria is consistent with the 2024 contest. So there's no changes in that particular contest this year. So let's go ahead and we're going to do the application guide review for the public fleet criteria. So accountability is considered by the judges to be a data relevant question. So organizations should have a published list of measures or metrics that you use, and you need to document your performance and progress. So the published list should ideally be included within a written business or strategic plan, which is uploaded, reviewed, and approved at least annually by your organization's governing authority. And it needs to be available to all customer service centers and to the public for review at any time. So if another form of document is utilized, it should also be reviewed, approved, and published in a similar manner. You know, making sure that you go through your forms and go through your policies once a year, you know, that's just a fleet best practice and making sure that everything is updated and so forth. So the list of measures should include both organizational wide and specific measures for both the organization, the specific functions within the organization, and the personal measures for individual team members. So examples of these measures include fleet availability, technician productivity, technician vehicle ratio, direct versus indirect labor hours, PM compliance rates, vendor compliance, and other key metrics that you might want to include. So these measures should document the specific goal, the current or last updated value, and the trend analysis for each measure. Is it going up? Is it going down? And in response to this criterion, identify the document utilized, how often it's reviewed and published, and give us an example of several of the current metrics and their values within your organization. So an example, fleet availability, the goal is 98%. Current analysis, 98.3%, up 0.01%. So in documenting the measure, this way judges can gain insight as to how you're improving in your fleet. So it doesn't matter how big your fleet is. I know a lot of people say, well, my fleet's too small, I can't apply for this award. That's not it at all. It's how are you looking at your fleet? How are you managing your fleet? And how are you making sure that you continue to get better in your fleet? So the 2025 100 Best Fleets Accountability Metrics are shown here. So these are the benchmark metrics identified in the contest over the past 3 years within their respective applications. So all 16 are key metrics which you need to know to effectively manage your fleets. So if you aren't looking at these already, and if you don't have these numbers, this is where you want to go into your system, into your work order system and so forth, and into your report center and really get this information out. You know, what is your average PM compliance rate? What is your average hourly rate for your technicians and so forth? All of these are things that you should be able to pull up out of your system and know and keep track of. So the use of technology and information criteria requires your organization to identify its technology deployment plan. So such a plan should be written and incorporated within the organization's business or strategic plan, reviewed and updated annually. The technology plan should identify and include fleet information management systems deployed, diagnostic technology deployed, training technology, communication technology, and utilization or web-based technological services. So it should include all of that technology deployed as well as planned for implementation over a specific period of time in the future. So if you're working on a project that you're just implementing that's going to be working for you in the next few years, then that's important as well. So in response to the criteria, identify the document utilized, and if it's included within your business plan or your strategic plan, and again, how often is that reviewed and published? So it should be evidenced, should be the intent to increase organizational efficiency and effectiveness through the continued deployment of innovative and modern technologies, integration, and systems of increased supporting capability of your fleet. Collaboration and creativity, one of my favorite areas, teamwork and so forth. So collaboration requires an organization to document how teamwork is consistently encouraged throughout all levels of the organization. So changes made through collaborative efforts should be documented. Such teamwork may be function specific or agency wide. It may or may not include customers or outside agency interaction. It possibly may be limited to a small segment of the workforce or an agency-wide effort with the intent to increase performance and the fleet customer service and, support process. So in response to this criteria, identify the process utilized to encourage those collaborative efforts of the organization. So it should identify how often managerial outreach and encouragement of collaboration is performed. Give at minimum one recent example of a collaborative effort undertaken by your organization, which may or may not have increased your service delivery. So such an example could include the goal, the intent, and the collaborative process, and the outcome to date if continuing. So evidence should be multi-level, cross-functional, and collaborative effort. A lot of folks I know in some of the green garages and so forth do like touch a truck. You reach out to your customers and or your constituents in your area, and you let them come in and learn about your fleet and so forth. So teamwork, engagement, collaborative examples, being a part of the community. So the 100 best fleets, the energy management. So there's a number of different fuel types that are currently being used by fleets to develop the required energy to propel their fleet assets. So understanding the properties of each of these, as well as some advantages and disadvantages of their use, can assist the fleet professional in making sound energy deployment decisions. So managing costs, increasing efficiency, and decreasing emissions should be energy management goals, obviously, for all fleet professionals. So the automotive industry is, highly technologically driven. So fleet professionals need to understand not only the characteristics of various energy types, but also the technology behind each type of how it works to determine the most economical energy type for the specific assets deployed within the fleet. So also of high concern is how technology can assist in reducing the environmental impacts associated with each specific energy type. So in response to this criterion, identify the organization's written fuel management plan, identify strategies taken by the organization to control and minimize that energy exposure and expenditure, maintain compliance, reduce consumption, and plan for a more sustainable, energized fleet in the future for future generations.
Kathy, if I could add something to the energy management there. It's really important when you talk about fuel types and energy types. Fleet managers these days, they really need to understand the differences in the energy that's going on and what they're using, because it's all different. You've got all kinds of gaseous fuels now. You got liquid fuels. You've got electric and all kinds of stuff going on. So you have to. It's not like the old days you pick gas or diesel. You've got a lot of options, and you have to know what those assets are going to be doing, and then what fuel is going to be the best for them in the long haul, taking into account BTUs or BTU ratios, things of that nature. And so when you're answering that, we need to see some of that stuff and see some of that evidenced as well in the response.
That's great feedback there. And it's so true. And I'm not going political, but it's going to be interesting seeing how the change, in the White House and so forth affect some of this because it's been heavy EV and so forth. And, how are those fuels going to change, in the next couple of years and so forth as well. So fleet managers wear many hats, don't they, Mike?
Yes, they do, and they have to know a lot. There's a lot of things they need to be experts in the field on too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for that feedback. So next, performance recognition, and celebration recognition, plays a pivotal role in the development and retention of the employees. Everybody wants to be recognized at some point, it seems. So employees, teams, leadership, and customers all need those recognition for, exceptional performance. So which not only meets but often exceeds specific goals, right? So you're still here to do a job and to make a number, but if you can exceed those goals or those metrics, so recognition is crucial in nurturing. That's such a hard word, I guess, for me today. So nurturing the ownership mindset, right, within the working environment. So recognition can range from a single job well done statement among peers to a presentation of certificates, financial rewards, which a lot of us are governments, so we can't necessarily do that. But there are ways that you can reward them, hourly pay raises, one-time financial awards, a special parking spot, and beyond. So it's important to emphasize that recognition extends beyond the immediate recipient, benefiting the entire organization and its stakeholders. Have a celebration. When we won the 100 best fleets, we invited all of our clients and so forth in, and we had a meal for them, and we set up a taco bar, on the vehicle lift. Obviously we cleaned and we covered with the tablecloths and so forth, but they just thought that was great. We set up tables, gave tours, and really told them what the fleet was about and how they had that role. So that exceptional performance, in the line of duty should be shared with all members of the organization and beyond. So celebration, serves to highlight and applaud the achievements and successes of not only the individuals, but the teams and the organization as a whole. So celebrating these milestones encourages, increased collaboration, creativity, and employee morale within the organization. And it's vital to outline how the organization, acknowledges and celebrates performance that meets or exceeds its goal. Recognition mechanisms should include methods for peer acknowledgement as well as recognition from customers. We always encourage our customers in our system to get feedback from the clients. And when that positive feedback comes in, then we would do something with that and give an award of some sort or a thank you or acknowledgement from the agent. So it's crucial to ensure that these groups are informed about who the superstars are within your organization, and the word of their understanding performance extends to their family, neighbors, and friends. So the organization's celebratory practices and the frequency should be documented in the organization's business or strategic plan as well. It's always good to be living by these documents. And these celebrations may take place at a specific function or dedicated facilities, whether on-site or off-site the premise. So they can be planned events or impromptu gatherings, and they may include the involvement of family, friends, and other members of the organizational team. So each one of you is going to have something slightly different, and that's kind of the point here. It's whatever works for you. There's no set one way that wins the contest. It's what are you doing in your specific area for your folks. So keep that in mind.
Kathy,
Yeah.
one more thing on recognition and celebration, and we kind of talked about it yesterday and earlier today. What a better way to recognize your superstars, whether they're the technicians or anybody in your organization other than a technician, than to nominate one of them for the NAFA 100 Best Fleets Technician of the Year Award or the Fleet Professional of the Year Award. There's no better recognition than that you can ask for, and it's very simple. Once you finish your agency application, just scroll down and start nominating them and fill out those nominations. In the past 2 years since we've done these, the Technician of the Year, over 50% of the nominees for the Technician of the Year were peer nominated. So, they get their team together and they just ask the technicians, who's the guy? And they'll let them figure it out. It's very easy to do. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Those recognition programs are in place. And what a better way to do that?
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And what I love about what you just said, Michael, is the fact that they were nominated by their peers. I mean, what better, way to get nominated than that? That's showing a lot. So that's fantastic. So on to, the high trust culture. So organizations, have to exhibit a high trust culture that's fostered across all levels of the organization. So employees within the organization, need to feel as though they're owners of the organization operations and have a place to advance, right? So they should be able to have discussions which identify potential process improvements, as well as identify and discuss potential pitfalls and consequences, without repercussion. So customers and supported agencies should also have similar opportunities to be able to discuss the development and deployment of new initiatives, and processes for the betterment of the fleet and for support. So in response to this criteria, identify how the organization instills a culture of high trust amongst its employees and other stakeholders. So a document, again, should be in place that identifies this, and that's a consistent theme throughout, right? Make sure you have your processes and procedures documented so you know where these items can take place. As I had said earlier, fleet managers wear many hats, and as you study for the CAFM and so forth, there's 8 different disciplines. Financial management, here you go. Fleet managers have to be well versed in your financial issues. They directly influence your fleets. So these financial considerations encompass aspects such as conducting financial analysis of different acquisition options, proficiency in fiscal analysis, grasping, basic accounting principles, making informed outsourcing decisions. Should that really be something you do in-house or should it be outsourced? And formulating and executing a fleet budget, which has changed a lot since COVID, I can tell you that. So each of these facets is critical to financial management for fleet operations. And it's essential for fleet managers to comprehend the business planning and the budget cycles of the organization to create and monitor the fleet budget consistently. So applicants should outline the funding structure and strategies for your organization to actively monitor and manage the fleet budget. So these initiatives should encompass the objectives, the underlying intent, the procedural approach, and strategies for effectively monitoring and managing governmental grants, federal fund participation, and the outcomes achieved up to the present date. So this includes, but is not limited, obviously, to outlining processes, controls, and monitoring mechanisms to ensure alignment with relevant regulatory frameworks and to maximize the effective utilization of available funds. So additionally, several benchmarking metrics should be presented to highlight the continuous improvement and the increased service delivery. So to achieve this, the description should be concise, focusing on the organization's goals, the current analysis, the changes, and again, whether increase or decrease compared to the previous period. Next, we're going to talk about doing it right. And the judges consider the doing it right the first time to be a data relevant question for the first time. So one of the most important measures or metrics within fleet maintenance management is the amount of rework or missed repairs within an organization. So it's a primary tool within the fleet manager's toolbox to gauge that effectiveness of the organization's preventative maintenance program, as well as the skill levels of the technicians and employees, because you don't want those vehicles coming back when they were just in for service and worked on. So in response to this criteria, we want you to identify the process pertaining to how the organization measures and manages the rework and missed repairs that the technician might have oversaw. So the response should identify the data, the measure or metric, the goal, and again, the current or last updated value for that information. The judges consider quick and efficient turnaround to also be a data relevant question. So turnaround times are also one of the most important measures or metrics within public fleet maintenance management. It's one of those key metrics to measure the overall average of the organization's maintenance management program. And vehicle and equipment maintenance turnaround measurements are the primary concern for this criteria. However, supply chain, demand satisfaction and servicing and decommissioning are also measures or metrics which should be included and managed within the organization. So turnaround time metrics should commence with 1 hour of drop-off or notification and end upon release or final completion of the task required. So supply chain, in-servicing, decommissioning, and others should commence immediately upon notification or arrival and end upon delivery or completion. So again, in response, identify the turnaround time measured, so the scheduling process and the values for these metrics. So for example, on this one, it would be vehicle turnaround time, goal equals 80% within 24 hours. Current analysis is 80% within 24 hours, consistent with previous period measurement. So supply chain goal 80% within 2 hours, but you're actually performing at 90% within 24 hours and 95% within 48 hours. And then again, you could put, fiscal year 21, you had 81%, 87%, 93%, down 1.5%. So just try and keep it as concise as possible since you're limited on the number of characters. So the judges also consider competitive pricing to be a data relevant question. So competitive price comparisons is how an organization compares its financial effectiveness to its peer level organizations, outside agencies, commercial vendors, and management companies. So I know I would always every year price myself and my rates with those of my competition to make sure that I was allowing the competition rates and so forth to be I wanted to be under the competition's rates because I wanted to be the one of choice. So making sure that I'm constantly reviewing the competition and comparing that to my fleet. So in this, it's essential to outline the organization's process for determining chargeback rates. What is your billing model? Specific applicability to the organization's budget structure. And this includes, but, is not limited to outlining processes, controls, your monitoring mechanisms for your rates. What are your markups and your fees assessed to ensure cost-effective service delivery? And moreover, it's crucial to identify those comparable metrics from external peers and the commercial market and evaluate the variance in between. So it's really important to constantly be monitoring that. Staff development is also data relevant. So staff development is the #1 focus of the 100 Best Fleets pertaining to succession planning initiatives. So most employees are extremely interested in their current and future development for advancement within any organization. And top performing organizations should have detailed developmental plans for their teams and individuals. Even in the face of their potential to move on to other organizations in the future, you should still be increasing, their knowledge and making sure that they're developing and being the best that they can. There's no better honor than having a great employee be promoted to another position because you've helped let them grow and developed them. That's an amazing accomplishment and honor. So development plans, need to be well documented with the organization's business or strategic plan. Annually, quarterly, even monthly evaluations. Peer analysis, specific technical safety and HR training, hour allocations. So they're given a specific block of hours for training each year. They all need to be included and documented within the plan, and you need to make sure that you actually allow them to do it. And what I mean by that is like our technicians, we would have certain training hours that we would want them to do. Well, it's so easy to get distracted in the shop by a customer that drops in or something like that. Make sure you have a computer somewhere else accessible away from the shop that technician can go do their development and so forth on another computer so they are not distracted by people walking in the shop while they're getting gas out at your fuel pumps and so forth. So it's really watching out and making sure that the resources are available as well. So identify your organization's written staff development plan. Identify those strategies taken by your agency with the types of training and review processes in place, including, average training hours required by staff to meet the requirements of their respective positions within the agency. So an example that you could use, average annual training requirement is 40 hours. 25 of that needs to be technical. 15 needs to be safety and HR. Current analysis is they're getting 42.5 hours average, up 1.5 hours from the previous period or the previous year. So just support it with numbers. Numbers tell the story. All right, so resource stewardship is a fundamental aspect of operational efficiency, and organizations need to have, again, a written resource stewardship plan in place and describe the team's stewardship efforts. So those also need to be reviewed and updated, you guessed it, annually. So the plan needs to document how human resources, the most valuable resource within your organization, is allocated and nurtured. So it needs to address how the organization manages, its capital resources to maintain, cost effectiveness services in the community. The plan needs to address your organization's commitment to environmentally sustainability and compliance with environmental regulations in place and efforts to limit future degradation to our air, water, and land. So the world is around for years to come. So with this, again, identify the document in which your resource stewardship plans are housed, describe your action plans and initiatives your organization has or is taking to increase this information and other resource stewardship efforts within your organization. So I know that took a lot of time for that one, but the good news is a lot is similar in the commercial fleet criteria. There are some differences, but we are going to go to this. And just a reminder, the application guide is available. So when you go on the website, make sure you click into the application guide because it will walk you through all the information. So on these, a lot of the information, again, is the same for what you're looking for. There's a little bit of differences, but to start off with, accountability. So you should have a published list of measures or metrics used to document your performance and progress. And it needs to be published and it needs to be included with a written business plan. Again, document your success and so forth and let us know, let those judges know how it is that you're doing and what your goal is, and if that's increasing or decreasing based on the goal and your experience. Asset management, again, the judges here consider several areas within asset management to be data relevant. So effective asset management, is a primary responsibility of the effective fleet manager, and it includes, many moving parts. So just make sure you know your strategic sourcing, your selector list development, that you have formal processes, alternatives, and how you do your upfitting, making sure that life cycle management is included in your contracts and so forth, and in your evaluations of any bids and so forth that you do. Regulation and legislation. With that, the leasing companies and automotive and equipment dealers, supply and service contractors and insurance companies, they all require skills and abilities of fleet managers at their highest caliber in all these different areas. So if a fleet manager doesn't have these skill sets, severe consequences can result. So as a cornerstone of overall fleet management, business management competencies cover a diverse array of practical and common encountered interactions and sound practices in business. So in response to this criteria, applicants should identify initiative taking strategies deployed within the organization to increase, effective business management. Initiatives should be the goal, the intent, the process, and the outcome. So, here you've heard it a lot of times today: your goal, your intent, your process, and your outcome to date. Benchmarking, fleet managers need to have the knowledge of the financial issues that affect their fleets. So that can be financial analysis of various different acquisition options, ability to conduct fiscal analysis, basic accounting principles, benchmarking, outsourcing decisions, and preparing again for the budget. For financing and so forth, is it best that you purchase the vehicles? Is it best that you lease the vehicles? These are all these financial decisions that you need to do. And a lot of this, again, was covered specifically on our slides before. So there's a lot of duplication of information. So that's why I'm going through it a little faster on the end here. So use of technology, identify your agency's technology plan. What is that plan? What systems are you using? What diagnostic technology is deployed? What training technology is deployed? How's it all fit together? How often are you doing it? Are you using artificial intelligence, virtual reality for training? There's so many different things. This is a really broad area that comes together with all the things that you're doing. How do they talk to each other? How do they make decisions together? So it's an exciting one. The technology and information is really important right now, and it's going to continue to increase faster and faster every year. Maintenance management, again, the shop operations, your staffing, how are your schedules, your procedures, your inventory management? Is it just in time inventory, or do you have a stock of inventory? Your turn ratios, your demand satisfaction, again, your performance monitoring, make sure you're benchmarking and making sure you're keeping track of your metrics. Is it better to outsource? Is it better to insource? So look at all that function. What are the components of those? It's part of, like, for example, one year I know we did an analysis. Is it better to get an alignment rack in our shop, or is it better to just replace it with another hoist and continue to outsource the alignments? It's all kinds of different things like that. That's an example of different outsourcing ideas that you can look at. And what did you do to come up with that decision? What data did you use and so forth to come up with it? And how did that decision work for you? Professional development, again, succession planning is so important in this day and age. It seems like there's a lot of retirements in the fleet space. So we need to have that leadership development plan. How do you motivate your employees? How do you communicate with them? Look for that results-driven leadership initiatives and the decision-making process. Making sure that you have ethical values and concepts, and provide empowerment to your folks. And with that empowerment also comes accountability, right? Making sure that they're accountable for what they do. Risk management. Risks are classified, according to the probable frequency and the magnitude of future loss. So for corporations, risk is most often aligned with loss exposure faced by the organization. So those loss exposures are typically pure and finite losses resulting, from catastrophic events or crashes. So risk management is the process of identifying and evaluating and measuring that risk, and then developing strategies to control it, whether it be insurance or something else. So the primary function of any risk management program is, whether formal or informal, is to identify the risks, how large are they, how likely are they to happen, and how best should we manage those. So those methods need to, be employed to manage risks, and how are you doing that, and show us how you're doing that within your company. Fuel management, again, there's, like Mike had indicated earlier, there's a lot of different fuel types in today's world and so forth. So understanding those fuel types, the comparative properties, the procurement strategies, managing costs, managing those technologies. There's underground storage tanks, above ground storage tanks. Is it better that you have on-site fueling, or is it better that you fuel somewhere else off-site? All of those, make a difference and have equations into your rates and into what vehicles and fuels you should buy. So just making sure you're on top of that, and those sustainability practices, right? To making sure that our future is a bright one for all of future generations. The sustainability achievements, are becoming increasingly acknowledged alongside, the traditional key performance indicators and KPIs. And the corporate world is responding to rising sustainability pressure in no matter what industry you're in. You're expected to continue across all vocations of the fleet management industry. So there's an increase in the volume of publicized literature on sustainability that has a positive impact on that bottom line. So increasing shareholder value, where board members, CEOs, and senior executives state strong stewardship and performance, is a key contributor to financial performance. So today, companies, both large and small, are looking for those measurable sustainability targets and goals for their organization. All right, the essay format. So content, within this section, which completes the responses to the 10 specific criteria, should follow the order of the criterion and be clearly identified and listed within each section. So there's no specific format required for this section. Although, again, it's highly recommended to have it reviewed by others within your organization for clarity. So how you word it and try and shorten it up might not be clear to someone else that's not in the fleet world every day. So maybe have somebody proofread it for you for clarity and identification of the initiatives. It can be a bulleted list, individualized initiative section, narrative paragraph, a full-length continuous written narrative, or a combination of all. So it's really free form. You can do what you want. Every effort should be made, though, to remain concise yet thorough and describe your organization's initiatives, and really use them all. So 4,000 characters is approximately 620 words. Use them all. 4,000 characters is not that much. And to see folks that only write one sentence, it doesn't feel like they're really very passionate about what they're doing and telling their story. So make sure you use all 620 words or 4,000 characters to tell your story and put the bow on top, right?
Kathy, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
On the essay format, over the past several years, we have increased the character count in the criterion from 300 to 450. And we came up with those numbers because we were watching what the additional narrative was in the essay versus what they had in the criterion. So we think at 450 characters, you should be able to respond to the criterion with very little overrun into your essay. But if you are going to continue on in the essay, please tell us in the criterion C essay. And it's so important that you, as Kathy said, follow the criteria format if you're going to do that, because we have a lot of applications, hundreds of them. And if we might miss it. If it's not clearly identified, we may miss it. It's highly unlikely all 4 judges will miss it, but it's possible. So make sure it's there and make sure that essay is written nicely and clearly defined so we can get a hold of the information if we need it.
Thank you. And it is amazing, as a judge too. I don't judge this one, but like I said, I judge the other 2 NAFA contests, and even the different judges, how we read things, our interpretation is different. So we do get together and we talk about those things as we score and so forth too. So yeah, it's really important. So thank you, Mike, for that. Identify, your initiatives, be current with the data or continuing, and your impact. So again, I know we're running short on time, so want to touch base here. So metrics say 1,000 words, past and current, show improvement or stability on established goals and objectives. The winning essays generally include an introduction and a conclusion or summary, and use headers to separate and summarize the 12 different categories or 10 in the other contest, and bullet your responses in each category. It's just so much easier to read and to catch and so forth when you're looking at it. These are the 2 contests that Mike was talking about earlier. These started a few years ago, and they're fantastic awards. So Fleet Technician of the Year Award and Fleet Professional of the Year Award. So I highly encourage you, Mike highly encourages you, please nominate your peers for this. In the staff meeting, bring this to the attention of your folks and say, hey, who do we got? Who's our superstar in our fleet that we can go ahead and, identify and write up in a nomination for? So again, start early. It's a peer selection process. 50% technician work should be by JD required. Focus on specific technician attributes. Be detailed yet concise. Be honest and factual. Thoroughly complete the nomination, and expound on accomplishments in the essay. And if you can attach a headshot or the agency logo and seal, that would be amazing. So we made it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. A couple extra things here on the end to summarize everything. So again, early bird rates are still available till January 31st for NAFA's 2025 Institute and Expo Propel Your Fleet in Long Beach, California, April 28th through 30th. So make sure you go to nafa.org and get signed up for that. The applications contest schedule. The application period opened December 4th and closes on January 31st of 2025. The announcement of the 100 Best Fleet winners will be at the NAFA Institute and Expo sometime between April 28th and 30th out there in Long Beach. And contest application reviews will be available at the NAFA booth. So I love that Mike does that. So if you apply and so forth, and no matter where you placed or if you didn't place, you can set up an appointment. You can come by the NAFA booth, and Mike and the other judges take time to actually sit down, go over your application with you, and say, hey, this is what I would maybe improve upon or expand upon next year for you to be able to place higher. So it's very kind of them to take the time to do that, and it's amazing. Questions, we're kind of out of time for questions, so I apologize, but I do not see any in the chat. You can always reach out to us if you want. But again, thank you for attending. The 2025 contest applications are now open. Make sure you download and read the application guide and join us at the NAFA 2025 INE Award Celebration. Make your travel plans today to get there. And just a reminder as well, tomorrow is our workshop Wednesday, so 2 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be some guest presenters, Mr. Billy Mead and Cameron Berger from Cornell University, and they're going to talk about how Fleet Commander helped Cornell University reimagine their fleet operation. So we will see you tomorrow for that. And thank you so much for being a part of this webinar and for joining us today. And I wish everyone the best of luck in your application and look forward to seeing the winners in April. So have a wonderful afternoon and thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.